In this video, we're going to talk about the classifications that are used by the end area volumes command. I have a cross-section set cut already, and I have some items in there that it's already detected in my existing ground terrain, my substratum here called limestone, and it has my mainline corridor in here as well. When I go to the classifications tab, it's detected these terrains and also all the components that are in my corridor, and it automatically assigns the classification rock to my substratum surface here, and it also automatically assigned the designed components to my components from my corridor. So let's look at the different classifications that are available. The first one is ignore, and when you choose that, it does just that. It does not report at all any of the volumes for that surface or for that component. So the ignore classification can be used for surfaces or components, and it just removes anything in the report about that component. If I set it back to rock, it will quantify the amount of rock being cut out, and it'll separate it into replaced and not replaced. So the rock classification really just for terrains. I won't be able to use that for any of my components. Another classification here, unsuitable, that can't really use for components or terrain, is specifically used for my unsuitable materials by station option here. You can see that if I add unsuitable materials into my list, I can go back to the classifications tab and it uses the unsuitable material classification. So again, this is not a classification that would be used for the components. And I have it in the list because I do have the ability again to ignore it if I want to do some comparison of volumes between the cut and fill with and without the unsuitable. So I can switch it to ignore and I can switch it back to unsuitable, and that's why it's in the list there, even though it can't be used by the components. So for the components, there's basically three classifications that can affect them. The first one, of course, is ignore, and it does just that. It ignores those components in the volumes reporting. Designed includes them, and as we showed in the videos before, it shows the normal cut and fill to the bottom of all the components that are set as designed. And then the third one we have that affects the volumes of the components is the MDC. And to illustrate that, we're going to be looking down here at this bottom component down here, this subgrade component here in yellow. And we're going to run it once with that set normally to designed. The name of the object there is road pave subgrade. That's the one we're going to be looking at. Let's make sure we have our XML report turned on, and we have that road grade pave subgrade to designed. When we hit apply, we're going to look at station 750 here in our volumes report, and we can see that we have a normal cut of 10.39. If we want to change the precision of what's being reported there, we can just go to Tools, Format, Options, and for our area or for our cubic volume, we can change the precision there. But I want to look at the area there at 750 for road pave subgrade. The area is 24 square feet. And the area of our normal cut is 10.39 square feet. So our normal cut is included going to the bottom of our subgrade. Now if we change the classification of that subgrade component to MDC, we're going to see some different behaviors there. And what we're going to do is it's actually going to reduce the amount of cut. So what we're going to do when we have a component set to MDC, we're going to classify it separately. We're going to remove that amount of volume from the cut, and we're going to report how much is below and how much is above the existing ground surface. So I have my existing ground terrain here that's running through that component. So I'm going to have some portion of this component above the existing ground, and I have some below the existing ground. So there are a lot of places where we get into certain types of soils where we want to quantify the removal and replacement a little bit differently, maybe under a different pay item. And so we're not gonna classify the amount of material as a cut. So we're not going to see that 10.39 value on there. We're going to see instead it broken out for our MDC value. So let's go ahead and hit apply on that and take a look at the report. And we'll go again down to station 750. Where before we had a normal cut of 10.39, you can see it is reduced to 0.56, so those are just going to be those other components and end conditions in there. But we do see that the MDC component is classified here. Here's our 24 square feet totally accounted for. And it's broken out to what is above unclassified and what is below subcut, the original ground DTM. And we can see that if you add the volume for the road pave subgrade subcut, the 9.83, to the normal cut 0.56, we'll get that original 10.39 that we had for normal cut before we added the MDC. So this amount is reduced. It's subtracted from a normal cut, and it's accounted for down here in what's above and below the existing ground. If we want to ignore it completely, we can come in, hit apply, and then back in the report at station 750, we will not even see an entry for the road pave subgrade.